Good morning and welcome back to the Adventures of Mac and Anthea. This is going to be one of those videos that in the course of doing one of my projects, I've discovered a material or a tool or piece of apparatus that is well thought out, designed and engineered, and worthy of a mention and also worthy of making a video of. So today I'm featuring the bicycle support bar for multiple different types of bicycle racks. This is as far as I know, just produced by Decathlon. I had real trouble finding anything that would do the job that I wanted it to do, and this does it well. So this product's really versatile. I mean, you could attach it to your rack, you could check it at seat post, handlebar post, crossbar, anywhere more or less on a bike. It's got a sort of the release clip that you'd have, say, on the bicycle seat stem, which means you could turn it and have these at different angles on either end. You can make it easier so you can get accessible with these to feed these clips in as well. And you can also adjust the length. You can see we can ride out to where that red mark there, so it can go from there to there. Also, what I'm going to show you at the end of this video is it's very easy to cut this down and adjust it. If at its smallest position it's not short enough, so you could probably even buy two of these if you wanted to or if you needed to. Now, another good feature I like is these slot in like normal, similar to how you would secure your wheels on your bicycles on the wheel rails. You do that and you can pull them tight. But what also it has, just to tweak it up a little bit more, you've got a little ratchet on it as well to pull it up. Now, it's ABS plastic, you can't go crazy with it, but it certainly just tweak that little last bit up and make it a little bit more secure when you ride away. And also, you know, you've probably gone sort of 10-20 kilometres down the road. If you're anything like me, you've pulled over, you stop because things loosen up as it moves around, and you could probably just tweak them up a little bit more. And then to release, it's just as easy again. You just sort of, hard to do it when it's not on the bike, pull on that lever and it just slides straight out. So yeah, really easy to use. So I think that's pretty all self-explanatory there. There's not much more you can say about it, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you down and show you this in situ on my bicycle rack, and why I've had the need to use one of these and why I needed the adjustable one and why the actual standard bars were no good. So we're down at the motorhome here with the bicycle rack in the background. I'm just going to very quickly explain to you the history on this, because then it all will become clear why I needed the adjustable bracket. So okay, this is a bicycle rack. It came with the motorhome. It turns out it's a bit of a mongrel. It's sort of half wool and half Fiema, and it was originally a two bicycle rack. So when it came to it, it's badly damaged. It had been hit here, that obviously reversed into it. It actually dinted in the tube and dinted a big sort of U into there. Plus this whole U bar was sort of out of square, if that makes any sense, and twisted. So when you laid it on a flat surface, it sort of rocked backs and forwards. So I tried to search a new part. They couldn't get the new part. They don't make it anymore. I couldn't find a profile that was the same profile as this aluminium to try and make a new one from scratch. So I was stuck with trying to repair the old one, which wasn't that easy. But after, you know, sort of bending it as much as I dare back into place without sort of destroying the integrity of the material, I managed to get back it into a half decent shape. And it was square again. Here, where the dint was, instead of trying to pull it out in the tube, I filled it with body filler. And now, I don't know if you can really see, but if you get up close, you could just about see maybe that there was some damage, but you can't really tell, so I'm quite happy with it. And then to finish it all off, I sprayed it with a primer, a two-part epoxy primer, and then I finished it with silver wheel paint, which I thought might be quite hard wearing the silver wheel paint and look a bit more like aluminium. Now, I wish I'd actually done a whole video on this, because I've followed a lot of vehicles since and seen they've got exactly the same damage as I originally had, so obviously done the same thing. But it is one of those jobs that it started out small and grew, because what happened then was, once I'd done this rail and it was all painted nice and shiny new, it made the rest of it look twice as bad. So I ended up taking all this off and repainting it all. I sort these new brackets here. So that was half the story there. That was all done and that was fixed. But then, of course, bought a third bike, and I wanted to convert it to a three bicycle rack instead of a two. Now, originally we had this rail here, then we had a support bar, and then we had another rail here, and then we had another support bar. So what I did is I mounted one rail here, one rail on the end, and then what I did is I measured between the two and did this one centre. Now, the only problem with putting that one centre is the standard bars, there was no chance of it fitting there, which was the reason why I actually needed the adjustable bar to actually fit this one, because the standard ones, there was just no way, even though they're sort of one size fits all, there was no way it was actually going to mate up to this centre rail. So now we've got that out of the way, let's quickly put the bikes on, get this support bracket on and see how well it works. Okay, so this is currently how I've got my bicycle rack set up. This is our new bar device here. I've got some bits of foam in here at the minute. We've actually sourced some Velcro pads that actually wrap round and Velcro together to protect the frame on AliExpress. So I should be ordering some of them, so I haven't got these tatty bits of foam, you know, sticking around, but they're doing the job for now. Good thing about this bracket is you know, you can adjust the length and everything. You can actually fit a short standard mount actually onto the bar here. It's not an exact fit. You know, you may need to cut a little length of, say, hose and cut it lengthways to wrap around here, or in this case what I've done is I've used some self-adhesive foam tape inside there to make up the difference so it doesn't move around. Now, it's not quite perfect yet. I can get it a bit better. As you can probably see, this bike's leaning that way slightly, and so is this one. So I could get them a bit more upright, but the problem I've got is this actual bracket here is on the inner piece of pipe or tube is actually right up now to the outer piece of tube. Now these can be cut down fairly easy, and if you hang on to the end of the video, I'm going to cut this down and refit it, and you'll see you know, how easy it is actually to say, for instance, if this bar, even in its shortest setting, is still too long, that doesn't matter. You could still very easily trim these down and put them back together and make a shorter bracket. So I've just quickly picked up the standard bracket here, and as you can see, in its standard form, that falls straight in the middle of there. That's not going to be any good. And even when you've got the bikes correctly on the rack with the rails positioned on the bottom bar there, how they were configured by the manufacturer, it's still a bit hit and miss, because obviously bicycles are all different shapes and sizes, so having a one size fits all sort of bracket isn't going to cut it, and this is where this really starts to, you know, come into play. Now, of course, you've got this rear bracket here, which you know, you can move in small increments back and forwards, which can help a little bit, but I'm sort of kind of set with where I can have that. I mean, if I move it any further one way or the other, then obviously this bracket isn't going to fit properly anywhere on this sort of frame. Even though I can slide it along a bit, I might be able to adjust it a bit. But the main thing I need is I want to be able to get this window open. The good thing about being able to get the window open at the back here like this, you know, this is where our bed area is. We can still get ventilation in at night. With the bikes on here, especially with the cover on, it's really difficult for, you know, pranksters or people with sticky fingers to get in there and reach anything, you know. So you've got the security, the bikes are providing the security for you whilst you're sleeping at night. So you can have this open pretty much at night, get some air straight onto our faces, you know, without any worries of, you know, being bothered by anybody. And another good thing about it is if anybody starts messing about with the bikes on the back of the night, chances are with this window open, we're going to hear them and they're going to wake us up. And also, you know, if they see the windows open, they can't reach and get anything, and they can't really mess about with the bikes, as it's a bit of a deterrent for them to think, well, if we start messing about with these bikes, these people are going to wake up and, you know, and we're going to be in trouble. So yeah, that's the reason why this bar's sort of stuck here, and I can't really move it any more than that, because otherwise the window either isn't going to pass, or if I have it lower, then it's not going to work for the first bicycle and cause all sorts of other problems with clearances as well. So one last final point before I do this, and when I actually altered this rack down below here, what I did do, and many people don't realise this, is you can actually adjust these rails and slide them from left to right. You just loosen these bottom nuts off here. You might have to give them a bit of a tap just to loosen them off if they've been set in that position for a long time, and they will slide from left to right. Now obviously when it's not in use, it's not going to look so pretty when it's, you know, up in its up position, the bicycle rack and all the rails aren't all in line. But I'm afraid I'm one of these people, yeah, I like things to look good, but not at the expense of your sort of practicality and functionality. You know, I'd rather have that, and that's the reason why you'll find all my rails are not in line. I slipped all the rails on loosely, I mounted the bicycles onto the rails, and then I could slide them to get the optimum position, so, you know, everything's sort of slotted together and cleared more or less. And then when I was completely happy with that, then I just tweaked up the nuts there. Now I do see a few people have done it, you know, but I think the majority of people just don't realise you can adjust these bottom rails. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to secure this off temporarily with a strap. We'll take this bracket out and we'll take it back up to the workshop and take a section out of here so that this bracket can move slightly down. See if we can just configure it just a little bit better to stop this sort of, the only place where I really have got any binding is here where I've slipped these little bits of foam in and the sort of bottle rack sit in the back of this bike here. If we can manage to upright this bicycle probably only a little bit up to here, that'll be enough then to clear that down there. Okay, so we've got this bracket back up to the farmhouse. I'm going to slightly loosen off this support here, and that slides away onto there, and I'm going to mark with a pen, because that's more or less the length that I want this to finish at, maybe a little less. Just mark that there with some pen. I can now release this clip. That's perfectly marked along there, and we can slide this bracket off. So as we draw this out, we can see this actually has a safety line here, this red line here. So obviously if you're pulling it out and you start to see that, you don't want to be taking it any further than that. And I'm thinking we need to sort of cut just past the end of this Decathlon marker here. That's how much of this outer tube we need to take off. And this line here, you probably can't see it in the felt pen there, is what I've marked. So if I take that away and put that up to the end there, you can see that if I take that much of the tube off here and then put this clip here, I'm still going to be in with the red line there. So it's safe to take that off basically. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off. Just slide this off here so you can have a quick look at this. So that just slots straight off, really simple. And we can cut this straight off. This is aluminium, so I think I'm just going to use a copper pipe cutter, will probably be the neatest way to do that. And then all we've got to do is rework this further down here, the hole and the slit, and then hopefully just slide this back on. So let's have a go at that. Okay, so I've just put some masking tape on here just to try and protect this from these wheels on this cutter. I've had to get my old cutter out. The smaller one I've got won't open big enough, and this has got a bit of damage to the wheel. But nevertheless, I think it'll still cut it easily, and it'll do a far neater job than it would do, say, with a disc cutter or a hacksaw. And also, there's no chance of us not, getting it offline when we cut it like we might with a hacksaw. This will definitely do it completely, square on, if that makes any sense. So let's get that on. There we go. And twist. Okay, so that's that piece off. I stand corrected. It's not aluminium, even though it feels quite light. It's actually steel. So yeah, my pipe cutter's even more buggered up than it was before. Ended up cutting it with a hacksaw. Had to be done. No way I was going to do it with a pipe cutter. If it's aluminium, yeah, but not if it's steel. So yeah, we've got this piece off. So all I've got to do now is drill a hole into this and put a slit in this bit of tube here so it matches the same as this one. Okay, so that's that bit done. Drilled the hole. Took me a couple of goes to get this right, this slit. I did it with a very narrow disc to start with. It was too narrow, it wouldn't tighten up enough to clamp the bar on the centre side, and I went through with a thicker disc. Suppose at the end of the day, you could take more off, you can't put it back on very easily. So we'll try this on here. It's the right way around, yeah. Push that on. That fits okay. Slide that in. And see if it's going to clamp off. Yeah, and that's got that. I'll probably tighten it up a bit more. So let's go down to the motorhome, stick it back on, and see if we've solved our problem. Okay, so that's the bar back on with the alteration, and that's pretty much got it. If we swing around to here, see now it's not much clearance, but it is clearance. This isn't binding against here now. I'm not having to pack this out, and that centered that bicycle up a lot better. And I've managed to maneuver things around a bit. It's normally constantly changing things around. You think of something better way to do it. I'll switch this back round the other way to bring this bike this way a bit more again, just to swap it all around a bit, just so that it gets a bit better on the clearance. As you can see, these bikes are now well separated, and when you're in the situation I was recently, I've just been up to northern Spain and back, about 2,500 kilometres we've just done with the bikes on here. If they've all been together all that time, it's going to do damage. Okay, and so that brings us to the end of the video. Now, I suspect a lot of you guys out there are probably thinking, well, that's a lot of time and hassle, just to get bikes onto a bicycle rack. But this is how I see it, when I'm out on my bicycle, out on a ride, if I have an accident, which inevitably happens when you're using it on difficult terrain, when you're riding it hard, and I do damage to the bike and scratch it, I'm not happy about it, but I can live with it. But if I've put them on the bicycle rack and I'm driving to the location and I do damage on the bicycle rack because two bicycles are rubbing together, for want of spending a bit of time and effort and making them sit right on the bicycle rack, I can't live with that. I'm not happy with that. I think that's just unnecessary damage, and just can't live with it like I can if it's done on the trail. So that's the reason, I've spent so much time on this. I shall add the Velcro pads to different places as well to pad them out as best I can, just so that when it's in transit, I'm not getting unnecessary damage done to the bikes. So I think we'll end that video there. I want to thank you all for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.